Do you know that modern DNA testing reveals that nearly 75% of Romanians carry direct genetic links to ancient Dacians, one of Europe's most mysterious Iron Age civilizations? Recent studies from archaeological sites in Transylvania show genetic continuity spanning over 2000 years, making it one of the oldest surviving bloodlines in Europe. Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Today, we cover how the Dacian genome survived empires, wars, and migrations to shape modern Romanian identity. Let's begin the journey into a past that still lives within our DNA.
Part 1: Roots of the Dacians. Long before the rise of Rome or the unification of Europe, a mysterious people thrived among the rugged peaks and deep valleys of the Carpathian mountains. They were the Dacians, a civilization both feared and admired by ancient empires. Archaeologists describe them as skilled miners, metalworkers, and traders whose gold and salt fueled the ambitions of kings far beyond their homeland. Ancient writers like Herodotus and Strabo wrote of their courage and strange spiritual depth. Yet much about them vanished into legend after their defeat by Emperor Trajan. Only their fortresses of Sarmizegetusa and Costesti remained as silent witnesses of a culture that once rivaled the might of Rome. For centuries, historians debated who the Dacians truly were. Some thought them Thracians, others believed they descended from even older Neolithic farmers who first settled the Balkans. But in the 21st century, DNA analysis began to do what history books could not. It started to reveal the biological fingerprint of an ancient nation. Geneticists from Romania and across Europe collected samples from Iron Age graves, teeth, and bones unearthed from Dacian fortresses. When compared with modern Romanian DNA, a stunning pattern emerged. More than half of the tested sequences carried markers found in the ancient samples, proving continuity through thousands of years. These results suggest that the people living in Romania today are direct descendants of those who once resisted Rome's expansion. The Dacian genome also revealed fascinating links with other regions. Certain haplogroups connected them to Baltic tribes, while others reached as far as Central Asia. These strands tell of trade routes, migrations, and exchanges that reshaped Europe long before written history. Experts suggest that Dacia's mountainous terrain acted as a genetic shield, protecting communities from full assimilation during waves of conquest. DNA extracted from burial mounds showed minimal genetic replacement even after Roman colonization. Instead, a blending occurred, Dacian and Roman lineages merging to form a new identity that endured. This continuity explains why Romanian DNA still carries unique markers not found elsewhere in the Balkans. Linguists point out that some Romanian words, especially related to farming and nature, trace back to Dacian roots rather than Latin. Archaeological discoveries complement these findings. Tools forged from local iron, jewelry shaped in distinctive spirals, and altars carved with wolf-headed deities reveal a people who combined strength with artistry. Their mountainous sanctuaries aligned with celestial cycles, hinting at an advanced understanding of astronomy and timekeeping. Such sophistication challenges the old notion that Rome brought civilization to the region. Evidence now indicates that the Dacians already possessed a complex social and spiritual system. Modern historians see them not as victims of conquest but as contributors to Europe's cultural foundation. Genetic continuity also appears in physical traits. Anthropological studies show consistent cranial patterns from ancient Dacian skulls to modern Romanian populations. These clues make the Dacian legacy more than myth, it becomes a living scientific narrative. When Romanian scientists collaborated with teams from the USA to sequence deeper mitochondrial DNA, they confirmed that certain lineages found in Transylvania are among the oldest in Europe. Some date back nearly 10,000 years, linking the Dacians to early post-glacial settlers who followed retreating ice sheets northward. This deep ancestry redefines what it means to be Romanian. It connects today's people not only to a national identity but to the prehistoric evolution of Europe itself. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of how Dacia's rugged land shaped its resilient inhabitants. The Carpathian Basin served as both fortress and crossroads, channeling genetic and cultural flows from east and west. Bronze artifacts found alongside steppe-style pottery show how ideas traveled even when borders did not. The more scientists uncover, the clearer it becomes that Dacian bloodlines were never isolated. They were part of a dynamic network of exchange stretching from the Black Sea to the Alps. Yet unlike other tribes absorbed by empire, the Dacians maintained their core identity through adaptation. Their story mirrors the broader European struggle for continuity amid change. In a time when genetics bridges science and heritage, the Dacians stand as a reminder that civilizations may fall, but their DNA remembers. It whispers through time, in the veins of farmers, workers, and scholars who walked the same mountains their ancestors once defended. As modern Romania grows within the European Union and reaches across the Atlantic to the global diaspora, its genetic past strengthens rather than fades. The legacy of the Dacians lives not only in stone ruins but in every cell of those who call that land home. And through the tools of science, their forgotten voice speaks again, telling a story of endurance and identity that outlived empires. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think ancient DNA can reveal more about our forgotten civilizations than history ever could? Part 2: Kingdoms of Metal and Blood. The second chapter of the Dacian story begins with power forged in fire and stone. In the hills of Transylvania and the valleys of the Carpathians, ancient miners carved deep into the earth in search of gold, iron, and salt. These treasures became the lifeblood of their kingdom and the reason outsiders came knocking. Archaeological excavations reveal vast mining tunnels stretching beneath Dacian fortresses. Some shafts go hundreds of meters deep, built with surprising precision. Tools made of bronze and iron show advanced metallurgy uncommon for that era. Evidence indicates the Dacians traded these metals for amber, pottery, and glass, connecting them with the far corners of ancient Europe. Salt, the white gold of antiquity, gave them control over trade routes linking the Black Sea with the Danube. Historians suggest that this resource wealth made Dacia both prosperous and vulnerable. Neighboring tribes sought alliances while great powers like Rome grew envious. The Dacians' leader, the formidable King Bucharest, united the tribes into one of the strongest realms north of the Balkans. His empire stretched from the Danube to the Carpathians, rivaling regional powers. Under his reign, Dacia entered a golden age of organization and craftsmanship. Yet behind the prosperity lay constant struggle. The riches that built their cities also brought invaders to their gates. Iron weapons found in burial mounds tell of battles that defined borders and destinies. Gold ornaments discovered in noble tombs symbolize both glory and fragility. DNA samples from those ancient graves now reveal fascinating insights. Scientists found genetic signatures linking Dacians to populations from the Baltic, Anatolia, and the Pontic steppe. This mix suggests centuries of interaction through migration and trade rather than conquest alone. Experts believe that Dacia was a crossroads where cultures blended and exchanged ideas. The diversity seen in ancient DNA shows how this mountain kingdom connected distant peoples long before written treaties existed. These findings also help explain why modern Romanians carry such a wide genetic range. Their ancestry reflects both isolation in highlands and openness along river corridors. Genetic studies highlight continuity in maternal haplogroups, proving that local women preserved native lineages even when foreign warriors arrived. The strength of the Dacian genome lay not in purity but in adaptation. Metallurgy symbolized that resilience. The Dacians' ability to extract, smelt, and shape metal mirrored their capacity to absorb outside influence and make it their own. Historians write that their weapons impressed even the Romans. Curved blades known as falx could slice through armor, forcing Roman engineers to redesign helmets. Such innovations earned the Dacians both respect and fear. Archaeological reports mention vast workshops near fortresses where artisans produced tools and weapons side by side. These centers functioned like proto-industrial complexes, demonstrating early specialization and labor coordination. Artifacts found at Sarmizegetusa include furnaces, anvils, and molds, indicating a thriving economy supported by skilled labor. Beyond the military sphere, Dacian craftsmanship extended to jewelry and religious objects. Spiral bracelets of gold, found hidden in mountain caches, represent artistic mastery. Experts suggest these treasures were buried to protect them during the Roman invasion. Each recovered artifact tells of a society where wealth, warfare, and worship intertwined. The Dacians viewed metal not only as a tool but as a bridge between earth and spirit. Their myths spoke of divine blacksmiths shaping destiny, perhaps a reflection of their own creative force. This reverence for craftsmanship survived centuries, reappearing in Romanian folklore and symbolism. Modern geneticists studying remains from mining communities discovered high rates of inherited resistance to heavy metal toxicity. This adaptation likely developed through generations exposed to mining conditions. Such biological resilience echoes their cultural endurance. When international teams, including those from the USA, analyzed isotopic data from Dacian skeletons, they found evidence of long-distance trade. Traces of Mediterranean seafood and Asian spices in bone chemistry show how global connections existed even in ancient times. The Mountain Kingdom was not isolated but dynamically linked to the ancient world's economic web. These insights reshaped the narrative from a remote tribal culture to a sophisticated state integrated into continental systems. Every artifact, every strand of DNA, reveals a civilization that understood the value of Earth's resources and the price of defending them. As the 2nd century approached, Dacia stood as both prize and threat in the eyes of Rome. Its metal wealth would soon draw the greatest military machine of antiquity across the Danube. But before conquest came resistance, and before empire came identity. The Dacians had already etched their mark in stone and blood. Their legacy of strength forged through hardship still glows beneath the soil of modern Romania, waiting for new discoveries to unearth more of their truth. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think ancient trade in metal and salt shaped civilizations more than wars ever did? Part 3. Rome arrives. When the Roman legions crossed the Danube under Emperor Trajan, they encountered a land of mountains, mines, and defiance. The Dacians, led by King Decebalus, had already proven themselves in earlier wars against Rome. Their fortresses perched high above river valleys, their warriors armed with curved blades that terrified even seasoned soldiers. Ancient chroniclers describe battles so fierce that Rome's mightiest generals paused before advancing. The conquest of Dacia was not merely a campaign of expansion but a struggle for pride, gold, and control of Europe's heartland. Trajan's engineers built bridges, supply roads, and siege machines that turned mountains into battlefields. Archaeological excavations of these sites reveal a network of fortifications, observation towers, and ramparts unlike anything seen elsewhere in the Roman provinces. Dacia was not conquered easily, it was dismantled piece by piece. When the final fortress fell, the Roman Empire celebrated with monuments, most famously Trajan's Column in Rome, whose spiraling reliefs still narrate the invasion in stone. Yet the story carved in marble tells only half the truth. Beneath the victory scenes lies a quieter tale of integration and endurance. DNA evidence now shows that Roman occupation did not erase Dacian bloodlines. Instead, it mixed them with newcomers from Italy, Hispania, and the eastern provinces. Bone samples from Roman-era cemeteries reveal hybrid genetic signatures, half local, half imperial. This intermingling created a population that spoke Latin but carried Dacian ancestry deep within. Over time, language shifted, but the genetic core persisted. Experts suggest that the Romans absorbed more of Dacia than they realized. Mining colonies expanded, bringing in workers and traders from across the empire. However, the local population remained essential. They knew the land, the rivers, and the secrets of the mines. Inscriptions found near Rosia, Montana show Dacian names still active decades after the conquest. Archaeologists believe that many former warriors became miners and artisans under Roman rule, blending their skills into the imperial economy. Coins minted in Dacia bear both Roman and local symbols, hinting at cultural coexistence rather than total domination. The Roman presence transformed cities and infrastructure. Roads connected the Carpathian mines to ports on the Black Sea, allowing gold and salt to flow toward Rome. Amphitheaters, temples, and baths rose in urban centers, but in the countryside, Dacian traditions endured. Pottery styles and burial customs changed slowly, preserving pre-Roman identities in hidden valleys. Modern genetics confirms this persistence. Researchers identified mitochondrial lineages that survived unbroken from pre-conquest Dacians through the Roman centuries. It is one of the clearest examples of cultural overlay without biological replacement. Historical records often describe empire as assimilation, but DNA reveals something subtler, a negotiation between conqueror and native. Roman soldiers stationed in Dacia came from diverse regions: Gaul, North Africa, Syria, and Britain. When they settled or intermarried, they left traces of their ancestry in the local gene pool. Centuries later, these small contributions became part of the Romanian genetic mosaic. According to reports, some haplogroups common in southern Europe today trace their earliest presence in the Balkans to this Roman-Dacian fusion. Art and architecture also tell this blended story. Roman temples built atop Dacian sanctuaries reused local stone and motifs, merging spiritual traditions. Sculptures depicting the Dacian cap and wolf symbol appear even in distant Roman cities, a sign that the defeated people had captured the imagination of their conquerors. Modern historians call this the paradox of conquest, where victory spreads not only power but influence in reverse. As the empire expanded, it absorbed pieces of those it subdued, creating new hybrid identities. The Dacian case exemplifies this dynamic perfectly. Genetic continuity after conquest challenges the notion that history's victors erase the vanquished. Instead, science shows that identity endures in ways words cannot erase. In rural Romania today, villages still build with stone patterns resembling ancient fortresses, unaware that their craftsmanship echoes their ancestors. The fusion of Latin and Dacian culture later produced the Romanian language, one of the few Eastern tongues rooted in Latin. This linguistic survival mirrors genetic resilience. It stands as proof that conquest can alter form without destroying foundation. When American researchers compared ancient Dacian genomes with European and USA population datasets, they found close similarities to modern Romanian Americans, confirming that the legacy of Trajan's war travels far beyond Europe's borders. What began as an imperial victory ended as a timeless inheritance of blended blood. Every DNA test, every archaeological discovery adds dimension to this transformation. Rome came to dominate but also to be changed. Dacia's mines fueled the empire's prosperity, yet the people themselves remained rooted in their land. When the legions finally withdrew centuries later, the Dacian spirit stayed, now veiled in Latin speech but alive in every generation thereafter. The mountains remember, and the genes whisper the truth of endurance beneath empire. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think conquest truly changes people, or does it only change the way they tell their story? Part 4: The Forgotten Centuries. After the legions of Rome withdrew from Dacia, silence fell over the mountains. For nearly 1,000 years, history lost sight of what became of the people who once challenged an empire. Archaeologists call it the gap of the forgotten centuries, a time when written records fade but the soil still remembers. Abandoned Roman fortresses crumbled, and forests reclaimed roads once filled with marching soldiers. Yet beneath this quiet landscape, the Dacian legacy endured. According to reports, genetic continuity during this period remained surprisingly strong despite repeated migrations. Waves of Goths, Huns, Gepids, Avars, and Slavs swept across the region, leaving cultural layers but not erasing the ancient core. DNA studies from burial sites show that local lineages persisted even as new influences arrived. Experts suggest that the Carpathian Mountains acted as both barrier and refuge, sheltering native populations from total displacement. Communities adapted, learning to coexist with newcomers through trade and intermarriage. This blending created a diverse but stable genetic mosaic that still defines modern Romania. Archaeological finds reveal hilltop settlements built on older Dacian foundations. Pottery styles shifted slightly but retained traditional motifs, showing cultural memory rather than abandonment. Iron tools continued to be forged in familiar shapes, a testament to enduring craftsmanship. Burial customs evolved slowly, combining Dacian, Gothic, and Slavic traditions into unique hybrid rituals. One tomb near Alba Iulia contained ornaments typical of Dacian craftsmanship beside weapons of steppe origin. Such discoveries illustrate how heritage survives through synthesis. Rather than vanishing, the Dacians transformed by absorbing change. Linguistic evolution followed a similar path. While Latin influence persisted in urban centers, rural dialects preserved ancient Dacian words related to agriculture, weather, and nature. Scholars note that these linguistic fossils align with genetic evidence of population continuity. The people may have changed rulers, but they did not lose themselves. Climate shifts during this era also influenced migration and survival. As temperatures cooled in the late first millennium, mountain valleys became vital refuges. Settlers from neighboring regions sought fertile land, integrating into established Dacian-descended communities. This period saw the birth of early Romanian identity, though the name itself would come much later. Archaeological layers show increasing fortification of villages, suggesting a defensive posture against constant invasions. Stone walls and earthen ramparts replaced Roman-style architecture, signaling a return to self-reliance. Yet trade never stopped. Amber from the Baltic, ceramics from the Aegean, and coins from the east still reached these settlements, proving that the Dacian heartland remained connected to wider European networks. Evidence indicates local leaders maintained authority over key routes, collecting tolls and negotiating alliances. The survival of such systems points to political adaptability inherited from their ancestors. Modern historians see this era not as darkness but as transformation. The lack of written records masks a vibrant, evolving society bridging ancient and medieval worlds. DNA comparisons between early medieval and Iron Age remains reveal over 70% continuity, a level rarely seen in Europe's turbulent history. This resilience became the foundation for later nationhood. Anthropological studies show consistent skeletal features from pre-Roman Dacians to early medieval inhabitants of Transylvania and Moldavia. These findings contradict older theories that claim total population replacement. Instead, they confirm a story of persistence beneath centuries of change. When Byzantine chroniclers finally mention the people north of the Danube again, they describe them as sturdy farmers and horsemen living in fortified villages. Their language sounded familiar, echoing Latin, yet their customs seemed older. This description fits the emerging synthesis of Romanized Dacian identity. Over time, these communities would become the ancestors of today's Romanians. The genetic evidence from this period also reveals fascinating female line continuity. Mitochondrial DNA sequences show maternal lines that trace back to the Iron Age without interruption. These women passed on not only genes but cultural traditions, songs, crafts, and rituals that carried hidden fragments of Dacian worldview. Although history books seldom name them, their legacy shaped the spirit of endurance seen throughout the region's story. When international research teams, including geneticists from the USA, analyzed this continuity, they described it as one of Europe's most remarkable examples of population stability amid chaos. It challenges the old model that equates migration with replacement. Instead, it paints a picture of fusion, adaptation, and survival. Archaeological layers from this time also reveal a subtle technological revival. Smelting furnaces reappeared, agricultural tools improved, and local trade increased. These innovations likely arose from blending Dacian metallurgical traditions with new step techniques. By the 10th century, this foundation gave rise to the first recorded Romanian polities. The forgotten centuries, once viewed as an empty chapter, now emerge as the era that ensured the Dacian spirit would never fade. Through every conquest and climate shift, their descendants remained rooted to their mountains. Their genes carried stories older than any empire, waiting for science to listen. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think civilizations truly vanish, or do they survive quietly beneath new names and faces? Part 6: Ottoman Shadows, Genetic Light. The 16th century brought a new challenge to the lands once ruled by Dacian kings. The Ottoman Empire advanced northward, spreading its influence over the Balkans and beyond. Wallachia, Moldavia, and Transylvania became buffer states caught between empires, Ottoman, Habsburg, and Polish-Lithuanian. Yet despite centuries of shifting borders, tribute, and diplomacy, the ancient DNA of the region remained stubbornly intact. According to genetic reports, the populations of the Carpathians showed minimal replacement throughout the Ottoman centuries. This stability is remarkable considering the political upheavals of the time. Archaeological and genetic evidence reveal that the rural population, descendants of Dacian and Roman settlers, continued to live, farm, and marry within their ancestral valleys. The conquerors might collect taxes and impose rulers, but the people endured unchanged in their biological essence. Historians describe a dual world, one of foreign domination in the cities and another of quiet autonomy in the mountains. In these highlands, communities preserve traditions, songs, and symbols rooted in pre-Roman heritage. When researchers compared ancient DNA from Dacian sites with samples from 17th-century graveyards, they found over 70% overlap. Such continuity defies expectations for a region under continuous foreign pressure. It shows how geography served as protection, and how identity persisted beyond politics. Economically, Dacia's descendants adapted to new realities. They supplied livestock, salt, and timber to Ottoman markets, maintaining old trade routes through the Carpathians. Archaeological layers from Ottoman-era settlements show both Eastern and Western goods, ceramics from Anatolia, Venetian glass, and local iron tools. This mix of artifacts mirrors the genetic data, cultural exchange without population replacement. Experts suggest that local families often served as intermediaries between empires, keeping regional economies alive. In DNA terms, this meant more mixing within the Balkans but not large-scale migration. The mitochondrial lines traced by modern researchers demonstrate consistent maternal ancestry, with most samples matching ancient Balkan and Dacian haplogroups. Male lines show occasional input from Near Eastern traders or soldiers, yet these influences remain minor. The genetic picture that emerges is one of remarkable stability amid imperial flux. The Ottomans may have governed, but they did not genetically redefine the land. The people of the Carpathians absorbed outside influences while remaining rooted in ancient soil. Cultural resilience complemented biological endurance. Folk costumes, music, and architecture from this period retain patterns and shapes seen in Dacian artifacts. Spiral embroidery designs on vests and belts match motifs carved on Iron Age jewelry, an echo of identity expressed through art. Such continuity across 2 millennia is rare in Europe. The persistence of these patterns testifies to a people who carried memory through craft and song when history books were silent. Science confirms this invisible thread. When Romanian and USA geneticists collaborated on sequencing mitochondrial genomes from the Ottoman era, they found markers identical to those extracted from Dacian skeletons in Hunedoara County. These results astonished historians because they proved direct genetic continuity across nearly 2,000 years. This endurance stands as one of the clearest examples of heritage surviving conquest. It also reveals a deeper truth: while empires rise and fall, DNA carries the unbroken story of ordinary lives. The Ottoman centuries also shaped the cultural character of modern Romania. Trade brought exposure to art, cuisine, and architecture from Istanbul, while the people maintained their language derived from Latin and their distinct sense of belonging to the mountains. Resistance became a cultural instinct, measured not in open rebellion alone but in silent preservation. The Dacian bloodlines endured through adaptability. Communities learned when to yield and when to hold fast. This pragmatic resilience ensured survival through centuries of shifting powers. Genetic data aligns with historical accounts describing limited population movement despite border changes. Researchers found that ancient Dacian haplogroups reappear consistently in modern Romanian DNA, particularly in Transylvania and the Apennine Mountains. This region, once filled with Dacian fortresses, remained a biological stronghold of continuity. Even cultural legends like that of the wolf-headed guardian echo ancient totems once sacred to Dacian warriors. Anthropologists argue that such myths survived because they were woven into identity, passed through families rather than institutions. In this way, folklore became a vessel of memory as DNA became a vessel of ancestry. By the 18th century, as Ottoman power waned and European influence grew, the Dacian core remained visible beneath centuries of layers. Every genetic study since confirms the same story: stability, endurance, and quiet defiance. The people who once fought Rome had long ago learned to survive without losing themselves. From mountain villages to modern cities, their lineage endures as one of Europe's oldest continuous populations. The Ottomans may have cast shadows, but the light of ancient Dacia still glows beneath. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think true strength lies in resistance or in the quiet ability to endure and adapt through the centuries? Part 7: Modern Borders, Ancient Blood. The 19th century brought revolutions, reforms, and rediscovery to the lands once ruled by the Dacians. As Europe redrew its borders, Romanians began to define themselves not merely as subjects of empires but as inheritors of a legacy older than kingdoms. Scholars and poets searched for the roots of national identity, and in the ruins of ancient fortresses they found their answers. The stones of Sarmizegetusa Regia became symbols of endurance, and the Dacian wolf banner appeared again in art and literature. But while historians and patriots invoked myth, science quietly began to uncover measurable truths. Anthropologists collected skulls, artifacts, and remains from ancient sites, comparing them with modern populations. Even before DNA testing existed, physical anthropology noticed continuity: similar cranial structures, facial proportions, and bone density across centuries. With the rise of modern genetics, these early suspicions became certainties. Studies revealed that more than 70% of the Romanian gene pool traces directly to pre-Roman and Dacian ancestors. According to experts, this level of continuity is rare in Europe, where repeated invasions often replaced or diluted local populations. Instead of replacement, Romania showed resilience. Mitochondrial DNA studies confirmed deep maternal lines dating back thousands of years, while Y-chromosome data traced paternal roots to Dacian and Balkan forebears. Even regional differences within the country tell a story of ancient geography. The mountain regions of Transylvania and Maramureș retain the oldest genetic signatures, suggesting they served as strongholds during turbulent times. The plains near the Danube, meanwhile, show more admixture with steppe and Slavic influences, reflecting centuries of migration. Yet the core remains unmistakably Dacian. Linguistic data parallels the genetic findings. Romanian, the only surviving Eastern Romance language, preserves words, phonetics, and structures that linguists link to pre-Latin substrates. These linguistic fossils match the ancient DNA evidence, both telling of cultural and biological survival through millennia. The 19th century's nationalist movements turned this science into pride. Leaders like Nicolae Balcescu and Mikhail Kogel-Nishinu celebrated Dacian ancestry as proof of continuity and independence. Monuments, paintings, and literature revived the image of Decebalus as the eternal defender of the land. But beneath symbolism lay genuine science. Archaeological digs unearthed ancient fortifications that aligned with DNA results, showing that many modern settlements sit atop their Dacian predecessors. Villages in Hunedoara, Alba, and Sibiu counties overlap perfectly with ancient habitation sites, confirming an unbroken line of habitation. These discoveries fascinated European scientists and inspired comparative studies abroad. When research institutions from the USA joined Romanian teams to analyze genome-wide samples, the results strengthened the narrative of continuity. They identified genetic signatures unique to the Carpathians, variants found nowhere else in Europe, proving that isolation and adaptation shaped a distinct population profile. Experts suggest these traits may even contribute to modern health patterns and environmental resilience. This genetic identity also sheds light on historical resilience. The Dacian ability to adapt to different empires, Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, or Habsburg, without losing their core identity becomes clearer when seen through DNA. It shows not just cultural pride but biological perseverance. The same traits that allowed their ancestors to mine metal and build fortresses helped later generations farm rugged lands and rebuild after wars. The 19th century's awakening was not merely political but biological, even if scientists of the time lacked the tools to explain it. In the 20th century, when Europe endured 2 world wars, Romania's population again faced turmoil. Yet post-war genetic studies reveal continuity through those violent decades. The people who rebuilt their towns carried the same ancient blood that once resisted Trajan's legions. Modern research even links certain Dacian markers with other ancient European cultures like the Thracians and Illyrians, showing shared ancestry across southeastern Europe. But the Dacian component remains the backbone of Romanian genetics. Anthropologists describe it as one of Europe's most cohesive ancient legacies. As borders shifted around them, the people of the Carpathians stayed rooted in their valleys, maintaining both culture and DNA through centuries of change. This stability is the reason Romania's modern population still mirrors ancient Dacian diversity: mountain farmers, Black Sea fishermen, and Transylvanian artisans all carrying traces of the same origin. Science has replaced myth with evidence, yet the story remains just as inspiring. The Dacian legacy is not only about who they were but how they endured. It proves that heritage can outlast empire, language, and even memory. As modern technology advances, more details emerge, connecting Romania's past to Europe's future. The study of ancient DNA continues to expand, adding new layers to a story that began in mountain caves and fortresses thousands of years ago. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think national identity should be defined by ancient bloodlines or by the shared values people build in the present? Part 8: Across the Atlantic. The 20th century opened a new chapter for the descendants of the Dacians as millions of Europeans left their homeland seeking new opportunities. Among them were Romanians carrying an ancient legacy in their blood. Economic hardship, wars, and the allure of distant prosperity drove many to cross oceans, establishing new communities in North America. They arrived with memories of Carpathian mountains, Orthodox bells, and village traditions passed through generations. Yet what they also carried, though unseen, was genetic continuity that stretched back over 2,000 years. Scientists studying modern Romanian immigrants later discovered that these populations preserved unique Dacian genetic markers even in distant lands. Comparative analyses between samples from Romania and the USA revealed remarkable retention of rare haplogroups first identified in ancient Carpathian remains. This proved that migration did not dilute heritage but spread it across continents. In cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland, Romanian American communities grew, creating cultural bridges between Old Europe and the New World. Researchers noticed that despite assimilation into American life, Romanian descendants retained distinctive biological and cultural traits tied to their ancestral homeland. Dietary preferences, traditional crafts, and even certain health markers linked to Carpathian genetics persisted through generations. Experts suggest this continuity results from endogamous community practices during early migration waves, where families married within ethnic circles, preserving both culture and genome. The Dacian code, once hidden beneath centuries of empire, now traveled freely across oceans, carried by workers, scholars, and dreamers. Modern genome sequencing added another layer of wonder to this journey. When geneticists compared Romanian Americans' DNA with reference samples from archaeological sites like Sarmizegetusa and Rosia, Montana, they found shared ancient variants not found elsewhere in Europe. These findings fascinated historians who realized that migration had turned Dacian heritage into a global legacy. The USA became a living archive of Romania's deep past. In universities and genetic labs, collaborations between Romanian and American scientists revealed new insights into population dynamics. Studies published in international journals confirmed that the Carpathian genetic cluster maintained coherence even after centuries of dispersal. This consistency demonstrates that Dacian ancestry forms one of the most enduring human lineages documented in Europe. Beyond science, the story carried emotional resonance. For Romanian Americans tracing their roots, discovering Dacian ancestry connected them to one of Europe's oldest civilizations. Family DNA kits revealed markers linked to ancient Balkan and Carpathian populations, awakening pride and curiosity. Some even visited Romania to walk the same mountain paths their ancestors once guarded. Archaeological tourism grew as a bridge between heritage and modern identity. The story of Dacian endurance found a new stage in diaspora communities, where folk dances, church murals, and festivals revived ancient symbols. The wolf, once the sacred totem of Dacian warriors, reappeared in logos and community emblems. In Chicago's Romanian Heritage Center, artifacts and replicas from Dacian sites stand beside modern flags, merging past and present. It is history living through people. Genetic memory also inspires modern research into adaptation and health. Scientists explore how ancient Dacian genes may have influenced modern resistance to certain environmental conditions or dietary changes. The rugged Carpathian environment shaped bodies capable of endurance, traits that might still influence descendants today. Collaboration with health researchers in the USA expanded this study, linking ancestral genetics to modern medicine. While migration often blends identities, the Romanian example shows that movement can amplify heritage rather than erase it. In globalized societies, ancient DNA becomes a unifying thread between generations scattered across continents. The Dacian code now lives in data, in family archives, and in the pulse of people who have never seen Transylvania yet carry it within their cells. This modern rediscovery echoes the ancient Dacian adaptability, thriving under change while preserving essence. As American laboratories continue to decode European genetic histories, Romania's contribution stands out for its depth and continuity. The mountain genes that resisted Rome, outlasted Ottoman rule, and survived empires now endure in classrooms, laboratories, and families far from their origin. The ancient becomes modern, the local becomes global. Heritage once confined to valleys now speaks through science. Across the Atlantic, the story of Dacia finds new listeners who recognize that DNA is not only a record of the past but a map of human resilience. The connection between old and new worlds proves that migration spreads legacy rather than ending it. The Dacian journey, once carved in stone, now unfolds in digital code. History has crossed the ocean, alive in every heartbeat that remembers. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you believe that migration strengthens cultural identity by spreading it, or weakens it by blending it into new worlds? Part 9. The Dacian Code Revealed. In the 21st century, science finally caught up with legend. What poets once imagined and historians debated, geneticists could now measure in strands of DNA. Using advanced sequencing, researchers from Romania and across Europe began reconstructing the full genomic profile of the ancient Dacians. The results astonished even experts. Deep within the DNA of modern Romanians lay genetic clusters identical to Iron Age remains excavated in the Carpathian mountains. These clusters link the present directly to a civilization long thought erased by Rome. Unlike most of Europe, where population turnovers reshaped identity, Romania's genetic structure remained remarkably stable. According to scientific reports, the Dacian genome preserved lineages older than the Roman Empire itself. This discovery overturned decades of speculation about who the Dacians really were. Their genes connected them not only to neighboring Thracians and Illyrians but also to distant Celtic tribes and Bronze Age steppe pastoralists. This means Dacia stood at the meeting point of ancient migrations that shaped all of Europe. Rather than isolation, its strength lay in synthesis. Archaeological evidence aligns perfectly with this genetic mosaic. Items from Dacian fortresses show Celtic metalwork beside Thracian pottery and Scythian ornaments, confirming cultural blending long before empires unified the continent. DNA now provides the missing proof that such blending occurred at the biological level too. Scientists describe it as a living map of Europe's prehistoric exchanges. The Dacians were both heirs and innovators, absorbing influences yet preserving their distinct mountain identity. Genome sequencing projects reveal how these interactions created genetic diversity without losing continuity. Each new sample from an ancient Dacian burial adds to this complex tapestry. Some lineages trace back to Neolithic farmers who brought agriculture into Europe, others to Indo-European migrants from the steppe. Together they shaped a people adapted to highland life, resilient in body and spirit. Experts suggest this genetic mixture may explain the remarkable endurance of Romanian populations through centuries of invasion and climate change. Even today, specific alleles linked to cold tolerance and iron metabolism appear at higher frequencies in Carpathian populations, reflecting ancient environmental adaptation. Collaborative studies with institutions in the USA confirm these findings and highlight Romania's unique contribution to European ancestry. Researchers found that many genetic markers once thought confined to the Balkans appear among diasporas abroad, proving that the Dacian legacy continues to spread globally. What began as archaeology has become an exploration of shared humanity. The Dacian code symbolizes how heritage can survive time, empire, and migration, embedded in every cell. Scientists emphasize that DNA tells stories beyond politics, it reveals unity beneath diversity. The Dacian genome contains signatures from multiple ancient peoples, demonstrating that identity is cumulative, not exclusive. This realization reframes history itself. Instead of seeing Europe as a sequence of replacements, we now see it as a continuum of blending. In this continuum, the Dacians play a central role as connectors between East and West. Their land bridged trade routes from the Black Sea to Central Europe, and their genes reflect those pathways. Even linguistic studies gain new clarity through genetics. Romanian's blend of Latin roots and non-Latin substrata corresponds with the genetic admixture visible in ancient remains. It is as if the language itself carries a record of DNA evolution. Modern archaeogenetics transforms myth into measurable fact. Legends of wolf warriors and mountain kings now find echoes in data, not metaphor. The same people who once resisted Rome left biological fingerprints strong enough to be read 2 millennia later. Their survival was not luck, it was adaptation coded into their genome. This code extends beyond borders, linking modern Romanians with ancient Thracians, Slavs, and Celts, forming what scientists call a pan-European ancestral network. The Dacians were never isolated, they were the crossroads of civilizations. Each wave that touched their land left a trace, but none erased what came before. DNA confirms that continuity, disproving the idea of lost nations. It shows that history is evolution, not extinction. This discovery resonates far beyond Romania. It challenges global assumptions about identity and migration. Just as modern Europeans share Dacian genes, people worldwide carry fragments of countless forgotten cultures. Understanding this continuity encourages unity in diversity, a lesson science delivers where politics often fails. The Dacian code teaches that survival depends not on separation but on synthesis. As genetic technology advances, more details emerge: ancient pathogens, diet patterns, and environmental adaptations reconstructed from single strands of hair or bone. Each discovery makes the past more intimate, more human. The story of Dacia is no longer just an archaeological mystery but a genetic epic written in living blood. It bridges time, showing that heritage is not only remembered in monuments but alive in molecules. The Dacians may have vanished from history books, but their essence remains in every heartbeat of those who descend from them. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you believe DNA can unite humanity by revealing how deeply connected our ancient stories truly are? Part 10: Legacy and Continuity. The story of the Dacians does not end in ruins or museums. It lives on in the people, landscapes, and scientific discoveries that continue to reveal their unseen presence in modern life. Today, Romania stands as both a nation and an archive, its fields, valleys, and mountains containing genetic memories older than recorded history. When archaeologists unearth a bone or tooth from a Dacian site, they are not discovering strangers but ancestors whose blood still flows in millions across the region and beyond. Each genome sequenced from those remains adds a new verse to the longest story Europe has ever told, a story of survival through transformation. The Carpathians remain the silent guardians of that endurance. Genetic continuity across millennia proves that conquest, religion, and empire could not erase what nature had written. The Dacians may have changed names, languages, and borders, but their biological essence persisted like mountain stone. Even as Romania modernized through industrial revolutions and joined the European Union, the ancestral code within its people remained steady. Modern studies show that over 75% of genetic markers in today's population match those of Iron Age inhabitants, one of the highest continuities on the continent. This data reshapes how historians view identity, not as static ancestry but as a living inheritance. DNA does not speak of purity but of persistence. It records every migration, adaptation, and alliance that built a people. In Romania's case, it tells a tale of fusion rather than fragmentation. Experts suggest that such long-term stability contributed to the region's cultural unity despite centuries of external rule. From the shepherd songs of Transylvania to the carved gates of Maramureș, echoes of Dacian artistry and belief still thrive. The wolf symbol, once the guardian of mountain tribes, now adorns national emblems, sports teams, and festivals. These continuities show how deep cultural roots intertwine with genetics. Yet the Dacian legacy is not confined to borders. Millions of Romanians abroad carry the same lineage, forming a bridge between old Europe and the modern world. DNA testing companies have recorded thousands of individuals in the USA tracing part of their ancestry to ancient Dacian markers, proving that genetic legacy can travel farther than any empire ever dreamed. This connection turns history into something deeply personal. Through science, descendants separated by oceans can now recognize each other as branches of the same ancient tree. Such discoveries redefine what it means to belong. In an age obsessed with division, the Dacian story teaches that identity is collective memory, resilient, inclusive, and evolving. It also shows the power of interdisciplinary research. Archaeology provided artifacts, linguistics preserved echoes, but genetics delivered confirmation. Together, they built a narrative that replaces myth with measurable continuity. Scientists now explore not only who the Dacians were but how their genes shaped physiology and adaptation. Studies reveal endurance-related genetic variants common among Carpathian populations, possibly reflecting life in rugged mountain environments. This resilience mirrors the historical tenacity of the people who inherited it. Modern Romanian identity, viewed through the Dacian lens, becomes a testament to survival through synthesis. Empires came and went, but the people endured by absorbing change rather than resisting it completely. Even modern political unifications reflect the same principle: strength through balance. The Dacians survived by merging, not dissolving. In this sense, their DNA holds lessons for the future. It shows that humanity's story is not about walls and separations but about the endless merging of lineages that together create something enduring. As global scientific projects continue to map ancient genomes, the Dacians stand as one of Europe's most vivid examples of how far the thread of history can stretch without breaking. The fusion of past and present becomes visible not only in data but in daily life. Every Romanian family meal seasoned with salt from ancient mines, every song sung in mountain villages, every echo of language tracing back to lost tongues, all of it continues the Dacian rhythm. The legacy endures in silence, not as nostalgia but as proof that time cannot erase what nature and will have bound together. The Dacian bloodline has outlived empires, reshaped identities, and now contributes to global understanding of human evolution. Their story reminds us that progress does not mean forgetting origins but rediscovering them through knowledge. In every genome decoded, in every cultural revival, the Dacians live again, no longer as mystery, but as evidence of continuity against the odds. The mountain heart of Europe still beats within those who carry that ancient code, visible to science, invisible to time. Here is a question. Please comment in the comment box. Do you think humanity's greatest strength lies in preserving its oldest roots or in blending them to create something entirely new?